HMP Stafford stands today as a paradox. On paper, it's one of the quieter establishments in England's prison system. It doesn't make front-page headlines, there are few violent incidents, and from the outside, it resembles something closer to a decaying university campus than a high-risk custodial facility. But within the barred windows, and under the flickering strip lights of its Victorian-built wings, lies a prison that's not working, not dramatically failing in the way some others are, but slowly and methodically breaking down. Stafford is a place where rehabilitation is a myth, time is a punishment, and the forgotten population it houses are slowly being erased by systemic neglect. Designed to hold around 750 men, Stafford is now almost exclusively dedicated to incarcerating men convicted of sexual offences. This specialisation, however, is precisely what makes its failures more dangerous, because this is not just a place to store prisoners, but a facility where meaningful rehabilitation should be not just an option, but a necessity. If the state is going to hold men for historic or recent sex crimes, many of them elderly or vulnerable, it must also be prepared to offer a pathway to change, manage risk with precision, and ultimately protect the public through proper reintegration or containment. But HMP Stafford, in its current state, does none of that. The regime is deceptively calm, violence rates are low, drug use is minimal, and staff-prisoner relationships are broadly polite. On the surface, it appears manageable. But what hides behind this mask is institutional paralysis. The prison runs on routine, not purpose. Many of the men here are older, some in their 60s, 70s, or even 80s. They shuffle from cell to yard to healthcare and back again, often without any structured activities, any rehabilitation work, or even access to a functioning support system. They are not being managed, they are simply decaying in place. The prison layout is old and tired. Most wings, A to E, offer outdated accommodation with limited accessibility for the prison's aging population. There are narrow staircases, no lifts in key areas, and poor provision for disabled prisoners. F Wing, the segregation unit, offers little more than isolation. Healthcare beds are limited, and those requiring end-of-life care are placed in converted cells with minimal comfort or dignity. One of the most chilling aspects of this inspection was the absence of any dedicated palliative care suite, despite the fact that multiple prisoners died in the prison in the year prior. These men are not just dying in custody, they are dying in conditions unfit for basic humanity. But it is in the area of rehabilitation where Stafford truly reveals its collapse. As a prison for sex offenders, one would expect robust risk assessment processes, extensive therapy options, and access to accredited programs. Instead, nearly 40% of prisoners had not even had a basic OASIS risk assessment completed. This is not a new issue. It was flagged during the previous inspection in 2020 and again during a 2022 review. It is unforgivable. Without a risk assessment, prisoners cannot begin offence-related programs, cannot be accurately managed, and cannot be safely released. It renders the entire system meaningless. Psychology services, key to the rehabilitation of sex offenders, are dangerously understaffed. Many posts remain unfilled, and those in place are stretched to breaking point. Program delivery has almost ceased entirely. What exists is triaged and rationed, available only to a select few deemed urgent or near release. Some prisoners spend 10 to 15 years in the system and never even begin the process of reform. This is not about whether they deserve a second chance. It's about whether the system is protecting society. Right now, it is not. The Offender Management Unit, OMU, is in disarray. Staff turnover is high, communication with probation is inconsistent, and public protection procedures are shambolic. In one review, a quarter of prisoners had no known MAPA level. That means no plan, no partnership oversight, and no protection for the community when release comes. Parole dossiers are rushed or incomplete, and decisions are often made without full understanding of the individual's history or behaviour in custody. It is a ticking time bomb. Release planning is non-existent for many. A significant proportion of men leave Stafford into the community with no accommodation, no job prospects, and in some cases, no probation engagement. The prisons through the gate services are skeletal. relying on stretched community partnerships and overburdened charities. For those few who do receive support, it is often generic and ill-suited to the unique needs of sex offenders. No therapy, no intensive management, no reintegration pathways, just a train ticket and a ticking clock. Mental health provision is weak. There is no full-time mental health nurse, no forensic psychiatrist on permanent rotation, and no system for dealing with neurodiverse prisoners. Many of the men in Stafford are undiagnosed autistic or have cognitive impairments that were never assessed in court. Without this recognition, their needs go unmet. The prison has no designated neurodiversity strategy. Men who cannot navigate the system are labelled as non-compliant, punished for behaviour they cannot control, and often isolated in segregation units that worsen their condition. In-cell conditions vary wildly. While some men on enhanced wings have access to clean showers and weekly laundry, others are left without basics. Cells have poor ventilation. Toilets are unscreened in some cases. During summer, heat builds up in upper wings to unsafe levels. In winter, old heating systems falter. Food is standardized, bland, and served in portion sizes that many describe as inadequate. For older prisoners with health conditions or medication regimens, diet is rarely tailored. The education program at Stafford is a formality, not a function. Classes are oversubscribed, underdelivered, and lack relevance. Many older prisoners don't even attempt to engage, citing embarrassment, ill health, or lack of access. Digital literacy programs, essential for a population that will re-enter a world dominated by technology, are either absent or insufficient. The library is underused, the workshops are few, and employment opportunities are reduced to cleaning or serving in the kitchens. There is no aspiration, no vision, just tedium. And while inspectors praised the polite and respectful culture between staff and prisoners, this should not be confused with trust or engagement. The reality is that both groups are disengaged. Officers are demoralized, overworked, and unsure of their role in a prison that has lost its identity. Prisoners have stopped complaining, not because things are fine, but because they no longer believe anything will change. All the while, the Ministry of Justice publishes statistics showing Stafford as stable. Violence is down, yes, but at what cost? When men are locked up for 22 hours a day with nothing to do, in an environment that neither challenges nor supports them, violence does not disappear. It just transforms into hopelessness. HMP Stafford isn't a prison on the verge of collapse. It's a prison already collapsed, only without the noise. No riots, no fires, no headlines, just the slow erosion of purpose, responsibility, and duty. In a system built on the promise of public protection, it is failing silently and fatally. So we must ask, what happens when the only reason a prison is considered safe is because its inmates have given up hope? What is the true cost of releasing men who've served 10 years but never faced their offending? Who takes responsibility when the quietest prisons produce the loudest failures? Let us know your thoughts. Is this justice, or is HMP Stafford the clearest proof yet that the system isn't broken? It's working exactly as neglected and forgotten as intended. A prisoner has complained that he is being treated unfairly because he can't watch television in his cell and can only spend £4 a week on treats. John Painter, who was jailed in December 2014 for beating up and raping a woman in her own home, complained that life at HMP Stafford was awful. The 25-year-old was jailed for 7 years and 8 months after admitting raping and assaulting a Good Samaritan who let him sleep on a sofa at her home in Walsall when he claimed he had nowhere to live. Wolverhampton Crown Court heard how Mr. Painter kicked the woman in the head during a violent assault and smashed her mobile phone before raping her in August 2014. But in a letter from his cell at HMP Stafford, which houses more than 700 sex offenders, Mr. Painter said that life on basic in prison meant he missed out on treats, like in-cell TV and visits from friends, and that he was only allowed to spend £4 a week in the prison tuck shop. In a letter to the most recent edition of Lag's Mag Inside Time, he wrote, I am currently serving an 8-year sentence here at Stafford and have served 27 months, most of it on the basic regime. Whilst you are held on basic, you lose your television, your clothes, your right to associate with other prisoners, 1 hour of your 2-hour visiting rights, your right to your own private cash except for £4 weekly, and you can also lose your job depending on what job you were doing before being put on basic. And let us not forget that you can get put on basic without even an adjudication. You are also then labelled a nuisance and troublemaker by staff and treated accordingly. Basic is nothing but extra punishment that can be given out without trial or evidence, sometimes without warning, just because staff don't like the look of you or suspect you of not conforming to their ideal prisoner. He added, all of the above are individual punishments to a prisoner, when the courts would say that the loss of your liberty is the only punishment you should suffer for your crime. There are adjudications to deal with breaches of prison rules and regulations, mini-trials where evidence is heard and decided on. My question is, how can this be legal to give out 5 or 10 punishments in one package called basic without a trial or real evidence being presented? Is this just another example of the unfair and corrupt system we have to live in? And if so, no wonder so many people choose crime if this is an example of the fair and just way that the system treats us. Wolverhampton Crown Court heard in December 2014 how Painter has a history of violence against women. His victim had taken pity on him after he claimed he had nowhere to live and allowed him to sleep on her sofa while he found somewhere to live. When the women rejected Mr. Painter's sexual advances, he attacked her, grabbing her hair and pushing her to the floor, where he kicked her in the head. He also smashed her mobile phone and punched her in the face before raping her. The court heard how Painter fled the woman's house, but not before warning her he would kill her if she told the police. Judge John Warner jailed Mr. Painter for 7 years and 8 months after he admitted rape, assault and attempting to pervert the course of justice, and he was put on the sex offenders register for life.